Mechanisms of Control by Timothy Hammond, 11/21/19. This paper will discuss one main theme: the control mechanisms that are set up in this world to keep us as humans from recognizing our very powerful potentials. There are so many topics I want to write about, but I find the need to prioritize by what is most important for humanity to understand. I want the reader, you, to comprehend how systems are set up in our world to enslave we, the people. These mechanisms of control are placed on humanity to keep us, the general population, obedient to the elite ruling class. So if by now you have not realized that there are a small number of people, families, that control the overwhelming majority of what is going on in this world, you need to wake the F up right now. This paper will cover the 7 main areas of our society that is controlled by this elite ruling class. And just so we are clear on the type of people we are talking about, the majority of presidents, dictators, and everyone in between are puppets to this ruling class. I am not going to start naming names though. This information is well documented. You can figure out very easily on your own who the elites are of this world. Reading my last paper would help you better understand this material, but my goal is to make this paper stand alone in your understanding of its content. I will list these mechanisms of control by title in this paper and to help you figure out or help you better digest the information of one topic at a time. The 7 mechanisms of control are the medical industry, the agriculture industry, the financial industry, educational institutions, the media, the government and religion, and finally the energy industry. It is hard to say which of these 7 mechanisms of control have the tightest stranglehold on society, but if I had to choose one, it would be the media. Now, it will become very evident in this paper that my biggest beef is with the medical industry, but I will try to remove emotion from that section and just give you my thoughts and the data. We'll see. I will save them for last though. Just know one thing up front. The reason why these control mechanisms work so well is because the illusion that is created that makes us think we are always progressing and that these industries are on the cutting edge of development. Wrong. We progress at a snail's pace by design and are led down the wrong path of progression, quote unquote. The illusion. It is also imperative you understand one final idea before we jump into this paper. There are only 2 classes of people, the slaves and the slave masters. There's no poor, no middle class, and no upper class. It's only the 99% and the 1%. Hopefully this will become very evident as this paper goes on. The concept of illusion will also become very evident. There's an article from Forbes that was released on 10/22/11 that's titled "The 147 Companies That Control Everything" that I would like to bring to our attention. This article describes a study that the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich conducted. These researchers had a database that encompassed 37 million companies worldwide and allowed them to see how these companies were related financially. The researchers analyzed the largest 43,060 transnational companies in the world and the share ownerships linking them. They found at its core there are 147 firms at the center of a bow tie shaped consolidation of power that pretty much controls everything. Each one of these core 147 transnational companies own interlocking stakes of one another and control 40% of the wealth within that network. Further, a total of 737 of these transnational firms control 80% of the wealth within these largest 43,060 companies. Now, when you start to do the math, that means less than 1,000 people end up making financial decisions for 80% of the wealth that moves in this world. Even more so, less than 200 people then speak for the top 40% of the wealth in this world. Let's just say, for simplicity and conspiracy purposes alike, there is something called the Committee of 300, which ends up making decisions regarding international affairs for the entire world. So those top elites continuously profit and push their agenda. By the way, there is something called the Committee of 300. It can go by different names, but the same principles hold true. Once again, I suggest you look into it. Now, I want to look at this Committee of 300 as a form of representative government, meaning each member has a group of constituents they are responsible to. If you do the math, that means for every one of the Committee of 300 council members, that one person makes financial decisions and is responsible for a little over 23 million people worldwide. Except these representatives are not voted into office, they are lifers because of the bloodlines that they come from. Going forward, I hope you understand how easy it is for these elites to consolidate power in many forms at the top of the triangle. Finally, there is one giant of an industry that this paper will unfortunately not cover due to the non-relation with the theme of mechanisms of control, but I thought I might just throw this in there for the reader's sake. The industry is the military-industrial complex, which comprises of all the major defense and aerospace contractors. This goes down a rabbit hole that I'm not so sure we are ready to handle as a whole right now, but please, by all means, travel that rabbit hole individually. They are an elephant amongst ants, and one would be wise to proceed with caution if you choose to cross them. Even the good guys would be forced to disappear you, quote unquote, if you put their backs against the wall due to what is at stake. There are people who fight this war within the military-industrial complex, and casualties occur all the time. Let us not forget those who have fallen, the nameless deaths that have sacrificed everything for a better future for humanity. God is with you. The energy industry. I chose the energy industry first because the worldwide consolidation of power is very evident just by the numbers alone. First, let's go over some numbers. I found an article from 10/25/11 from the Business Insider that lists the top 15 energy companies in the world and what their financials were in 2011. I can assure you this consolidation of the energy industry has only grown from that point. I am going to use the country's GDP and relate it to the total assets of these energy firms to make a comparison. If you add up the total assets of the top 15 energy firms and view them as one big conglomerate, which they are, this conglomerate would be considered the 8th wealthiest country in the world, right behind India with assets totaling $2.5 trillion. These companies are connected through various means, and this holds true for all 7 mechanisms of control. There will be board members on each company that will also have board of directors positions at one of the other firms, or one of their family members will be on another board. Many times the spouse of these board members will hold a prominent position at one of the other firms also. If it is a publicly traded company, large outside shareholders will also be tied to numerous firms within this conglomerate, mainly through their investments. The spider web is vast, and I don't want to waste a lot of time explaining how these elites consolidate power at the top through the spider web. Just know that many other people have done great work exposing these connections. I highly suggest you look into it if you have not done so already. Let's focus on the top 5 energy companies for now. The largest energy firm is Royal Dutch Shell, located in the Netherlands, with assets totaling more than $292 billion. The other companies in the top 5 are all associated with large, wealthy countries. But why the hell is this Dutch company so rich? Number 2 on the list is Gazprom Oil, or something like that, which is located in Russia with $270 billion in assets. Third is PetroChina Corp with $254 billion in assets. Fourth is British Petroleum with $235 billion in assets. And fifth is ExxonMobil Corp, located in the U.S. with $233 billion in assets. These top 5 energy firms combined would be considered the 15th wealthiest country in the world, behind Australia and in front of Mexico, with assets in excess of $1.3 trillion combined. You see where I'm going with this? At the very least, these companies have a monopoly over the energy sector. At the very worst, they are manipulating the market between themselves to continuously profit off of energy consumption. Not for nothing either, but British Petroleum got a slap on the wrist financially for the ecological disaster that was the Gulf oil spill. That event affected people and wildlife for an entire decade, and it was all due to BP trying to maximize profits off of their Deepwater Horizon. Let me try to bring this together for you by asking a couple simple questions. Why are we still driving around in cars with technology that was developed over 100 years ago? Why do we still have power shortages due to technology that was also invented over 100 years ago? Last, why is new energy technology not at the forefront of global discussion? I'm not talking crappy solar power either. I'm talking zero-point energy, the kind of energy that is safe and limitless. The technology already exists. Just go knock on the door of the U.S. Patent Office and ask them why they are keeping these technologies under lock and key. In case you don't have the time, though, let me answer those questions for you. Mechanisms of control. As Americans, and I am sure much of the rest of the world feels this way, we have to work to keep the lights on. If we are not good, obedient slaves, we will not have money to pay for the heat or light or gas for our cars. These are basic needs that we should not have to pay for, but because of the systems of control that are in place, we are dependent on these energy firms to provide these needs. And why the hell are energy prices continuously going up? And don't tell me inflation. The price of goods and services always goes down when there is real competition introduced into a fair market. This is economics 101, people. So, to finish, by us humans, slaves, always being preoccupied in our minds with needing to bring in a paycheck to pay the bills, mainly energy bills, we are now focused on supplying basic needs to our families. If we didn't have to worry about working to keep the lights on, maybe some of that brain power could go towards some kind of beautiful creation or goodwill towards humanity. Just a thought. One final fact regarding the energy industry. Combined, the top 15 energy firms during this fiscal year of 2011 profited almost $200 billion. That means all bills paid and simply profit for their business. You would think this money should go to improving the 100-year-old technology we are still using, but I don't remember anything groundbreaking coming out those following years after 2011. Also, the top 5 energy firms were the recipients of almost $100 billion of that profit, all in the hands of a few greedy people. That just doesn't seem right when there are millions of people struggling all over the world for basic needs, the type of needs that can be provided by these energy firms. Mainstream media. Oh, our buddies. This is an important section, so let me try to convey the right message to you. The control that this industry has over America is staggering. So I will try to explain this in one sentence and then back it up with some dots for you to connect. The reason why the mainstream media has so much control is because they control the flow of information that is disseminated to average people. Granted, the internet is at our fingertips, and what would seem like a wealth of information is just there for the picking. But that picking is the problem. Let me try to explain. Average people will get most of their information from 3 sources. First, people will watch either local and or national news. Second, people will collect information from social media and the internet. Third, people will probably get the majority of their information from other people who are in their life, people that they trust and are also in regular contact with them. I will break each one of these down for us. Let's start with the conventional media outlets. There's an article from the Elite Daily published on 7/2/13 titled "The World's 10 Largest Media Conglomerates." Now, when you look at this list of conglomerates as a whole, each company usually has a variety of different type of media outlets, such as movie production, local newspaper, local TV, local and satellite radio, national news networks, magazines, sport teams, and the list just goes on. The reason I think Each media company is so diversified in their holdings as to avoid antitrust laws. There is an appearance that no single company has a monopoly on one specific industry, like newspaper or national news. But as a whole, these top 10 media giants pretty much own every single outlet of information that is worth anything in the world, besides the internet giants. Let's look at the top 5. From largest to smallest: Comcast Corp., Walt Disney Company, Time Warner, Viacom, and the News Corporation. Just like the intermingled spider web of cross-ownership we just covered, these companies are set up the exact same way. For instance, a Saudi prince has the second largest share in News Corporation. They are the company that owns Fox News. What is a Saudi royal doing with that much controlling stake in an American news company? This is just one example amongst hundreds we could go into, but let's keep it moving. If there is one idea I really want you to cling on to about the restriction of the flow of information, it is this. It is not what these news channels are telling you and reporting on, it is what they are unwilling to report and talk about. The largest example of this situation for me is the refusal of the media mafia to report on the human and child trafficking that takes place in America and worldwide. This is a black market industry that is larger than the drug trade and affects hundreds of thousands of people every year, if not more. It's a lot more. Think about this. Women and children are sold off to very rich people for all sorts of evil purposes, such as sex slavery and much, much worse. I'm not going to go into these details in the paper, but it will make you sick to your stomach and chill you to your core if you knew the atrocities that are committed as a result of human and child trafficking. It's disgusting. Wish those people burn in hell. I'm just kidding. Give them a chance, Jesus, and then let them burn in hell. Sorry. These companies almost refuse to report on this, and if they do, it is some news headline that is flashed at the bottom of the screen. Shame on you. I know why you don't report on it. It is because the same crooked people at the top of these media conglomerates are the same ones participating in these sick, evil acts. Just to be fair, though, there's a small amount of people in these positions of power within the media mafia that want to do the right thing and try to do the right thing, and I commend you. The size and inhumanity of this human trafficking problem, not to mention the countless victims, deserve an entire paper. Hopefully coming soon. Moving on. Now we have talked about the internet and social media giants. Mainly four: Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, and Google. And Google owns YouTube. Now, right off the jump, you are probably thinking Amazon isn't a media company. And you would be wrong to think that. Let me explain. First, let's not forget that Amazon got its start selling books on the internet. This is very much a large part of media. They still sell billions of dollars in books, but now they also sell everything else under the sun. They choose which products they want you to have and then give you the illusion that you have so many options to choose from. Except the options they give you are handpicked by the executives to promote a simple agenda. Sometimes this agenda is purely monetary, which means they just want to make as much money as possible, and they do. But other times they are pushing a narrative, an agenda, such as restricting certain holistic and natural health books because they don't want that content to be available to the masses, the slaves. In the end, Amazon has a unique position in the control of information with the sellings of books and movies, but now let's talk about the other three. There are so many examples of censorship on Facebook and Twitter. I feel like I don't even have to write about this. I don't want to make this political, but it is mostly conservative viewpoints that are challenging the narrative of the media mafia that are being censored. These platforms are hidden from search engines with clever algorithms, or just downright banned under the disguise of hate speech, which is a joke. Once again, this paper is not political. The option that you can choose one side or the other is their way of controlling you. In the past, all the way up to the near future, both Democrats and Republicans alike have been controlled by the same group of families that control everything else. We won't get into the current political situation because I don't want to trigger anyone, but let it be known the battle between right and wrong, or good and evil, is playing out in American politics and every other country in the world as we speak. You just have to look past the optics of everything you see and hear on the internet and TV to get down to what really is going on. Very important. Moving on. Google should also be very easy to point out how they restrict the flow of information. Do any basic search on Google about any hot topic today, and then do that same search on a search engine like DuckDuckGo or Yahoo or Bing. You will find top 10 results of Google are always very one-sided. Always. Where at least the other ones will try to give you a somewhat balanced search result. By the way, DuckDuckGo is the least biased out of all the search engines, so I suggest if you want to be a free thinker and gather data from all viewpoints, use them. In the end, we should all realize how much information we get from the internet and always be aware of the illusion of self-discovery through clever search engine manipulation and the illusion that you have free will to research what you want, because you don't. Just one more little bit of information for you. Google has in excess of $100 billion. That's a year, all right? They are hands down the largest in the media mafia. That is twice as large as the second largest of the media mafia, which is Comcast. If you knew the things that Google is putting their revenue into in terms of controlling the populations of the slaves in this world, it would make you sick. Research it. Just don't research it on Google. Agriculture industry. In this section, I am mainly going to focus on how this commodity is used as a weapon. I looked at an article from Insider Monkey published on November 5th, 2017, titled 12 Largest Agricultural Companies by Revenue in the World. And I was quite shocked at what I found. This industry does not consolidate power at the top like most of the rest of the mechanisms of control do. The majority of the top 12 companies do not even grow food. They sell the chemicals and equipment needed so farmers can produce crops, or control the logistics of moving and storing crops and livestock. This article pretty much states that the reason for this abnormality is because the companies dealing in producing agriculture, which would be the farmers, have lower revenue due to lower crop prices. Interesting. Over the next couple paragraphs, I will try to explain how this is weaponized and used against the people, the farmers, along with some other fun little facts for you to chew on. So let's start with this little fun fact. There are 4 companies in the top 12 that actually produce crops. They are number 12, number 11, number 2, and number 1. The second largest companies get half of its revenue with the storage and transportation of agriculture, not even the production of agriculture, which brings us to our first little fun fact. The largest agriculture company in the world is Cargill, which has an annual revenue in excess of $100 billion and is located right here in the good old USA. That would put Cargill right around the same size as Google. Think of that one. Except Cargill is not a publicly traded company. They are privately owned, which means they do not need to disclose their financial statements to the public, and very rarely do. Here is the kicker. The majority of the US-based Cargill empire deals in the production of agriculture. So this one company has almost single-handedly monopolized the production of agriculture in the United States. No wonder the farmers have such a tough time. Cargill controls 22% of the domestic meat market in the US and 25% of the US grain export. Cargill also has another division of the company which separates them from the rest, and that is their financial services division. Now, since they are a privately owned company, the specifics on revenue are not readily available, but isn't it convenient that this giant of a company with a monopoly over agriculture production also controls the financial services to the smaller farmers? The farmers end up being enslaved twice. That is why it's so hard for the farmers to prosper. Now we are going to talk about how big agriculture uses their weapon or their power as a weapon against people and nations. Have you ever heard of something called Arkansas rice? No? Let me tell you about it. Arkansas rice refers to the intentional undermining of an entire country to decimate, their food production and turn their people into a cheap labor force for factories. I will try to make this straight to the point. Haiti used to be a vibrant nation, full of heritage, culture, and most importantly, rice production. This country had no waste collection, that means landfills, because they lived in harmony with their environment. These people were beautiful. Such a beautiful people that we as Americans could probably learn a lot from them, how they lived in harmony with their land and each other. Much of their economy revolved around the production and exporting of rice. Due to the ideal climate and richness of the land, American companies saw Haiti as a prime target for cheap labor, just like Mexico to be used in American-owned factories located in Haiti. So a plan was devised and executed to accomplish this goal. These American elites used the same model as Standard Oil did. That's John D. Rockefeller back in the late 1800s. And if whoever doesn't know what Standard Oil is, there's some gangsters. They're the original gangsters. Look into them. In Haiti's situation, rice was brought in from the United States, Arkansas, and was sold at such cheap prices and or given away for free that it eventually put all the local farmers in Haiti out of business. The Haitians eventually were forced to sell their land because they had no income from it. Once these farmers were out of business, they had no option but to go work in the factories for such low wages. They could barely afford to support their families. This gave way to poverty, disease, and violence eventually. This once beautiful country was now producing waste in the form of plastic, and their population was forced to move to centralized urban areas and work for slave wages in factories. It doesn't end there though. Once these American elites figured out that they have a much larger and even more profitable workforce in China, they moved these factories out of Haiti and left the people of Haiti with absolutely nothing. No land, no jobs, a ton of garbage, abandoned factories, and finally a people and economy that was completely crippled. Textbook definition of crimes against humanity committed by corporate America. Now, I told you I wasn't going to name names, but this one is going to get named. The crimes against humanity was overseen and profited off of the Clintons while Bill was the governor of Arkansas, and further perpetrated while he was the president of the United States of America. Corruption at the highest levels. Shame on you. The people of Haiti deserve justice and retribution. Now we are going to talk about how the elites of America screw our local farmers. Oh, poor farmers. Crop prices are kept low, so your average farmer without massive plots of land cannot profit in a struggling market off of their family's land and the talents that have been passed down for generations. Only those who are able to farm on an industrial scale have the ability to stay competitive as a business. Furthermore, weather modification technology creates droughts in targeted areas and can produce rain and flood situations on demand, all in an attempt to eliminate competition and benefit allies. Now you are probably thinking, weather modification, how the hell you do that? Well, this technology is actually quite simple and has been around for 50 years or more. Just look at HAARP or chemtrails. Do your research, just not on Google. Now it has gotten to the point where your average American would never even know how to start to grow food, let alone sustain themselves and their families if they wanted to. Local farmers are far and few between, and the majority of agriculture production is done on a large industrial scale, and these companies could care less about what chemicals they put into food or whom they harm. Finally, we are going to talk about one side of big agriculture that no one likes to admit to or even discuss. This is the fact that these companies are using chemicals, which are harmful to plants, livestock, and humans, and genetics, which also messes with plants, animals, and humans, to maximize their profit. Do I even need to get into this topic? I hope people are smart enough to realize these practices are killing us and the earth. I am only going to say one thing about this topic. By us tampering with the genetics of plants and animals and using harmful chemicals to grow our food, we are declaring that we know better than God. But we are poisoning ourselves from within. This is very ignorant and stupid of us. It's like saying, you know what, God, I think you screwed up this part of your creation. Don't worry, us stupid humans can fix this problem with some sort of chemical or genetic modification. This is not a good place to be in for humanity right now. One last question regarding big agriculture. Why does the FDA continually allow these chemicals to be used in agriculture production when down the road these chemicals are always proved to be dangerous? Let me answer that. Because they are in on it also. The same people who are at the top of the FDA are the same people intermingled with the spider web of cross ownership in big agriculture and the rest of the mechanisms of control. They are all about the mighty dollar, not the prospering of the people. The GMOs and chemicals are used to keep us as dumb and sick as possible. It makes it really easy to control slaves when they're dumb and sick. I will give these elites one thing though. They are smart. Bastards. This industry is well designed to enrich the slave masters and oppress the slaves on every level and hide it in plain sight. The elites live by the rule, if we are not smart enough to see that we are being enslaved, then we deserve to be enslaved. The time has come for us to take back the power of the people. Trust me when I say the elites don't want this because they know the power that lies in a humanity united.